What is up, YouTube? I'm Devon DaVinci, leader of the Renaissance Crew, and you're watching DaVinci Reacts. Today we're going to be getting into another video game related reaction. This is another video that I haven't actually seen. I've talked about this in several videos I've done reactions to. There were a handful of videos that I've reacted to already that had an issue when it came to the editing process. Some parts of it was corrupted and I wasn't able to get all the assets, and I essentially had to redo the reaction. So there were some videos that are coming out today and during this week that are going to be my second time watching it. I'm gonna try to, be honest with you guys and let you guys know when I've already seen something. And so in those videos, I will let you know that I've already seen it. This video is one that I have not seen though. It's something that I had on my reaction list, but I didn't get a chance to get around to it. And so that was actually a good thing, because when I had my last recording session, I only recorded like 3 videos. I was pretty tired on that day. So it's good only 3 videos I reacted to that turned out to be corrupted, but this was not one of them. Anyway, this is 25 worst video games of each year. Now, there have been some bad games, some very bad games throughout the decades, and I would love to have seen them go a little bit further back than just 2000, because I think that, like, if you want to get to like the nitty gritty, some of the worst games of all time, you got to go back to those. Like, there was a period in time in gaming when like a lot of different electronic companies were releasing their own video game systems, like Philips and Apple had like the Pippin or something like that, and the 3DO, just a lot of different like obscure consoles that had some horrible games on it. So I think you got to go back to like the 80s and the 90s to get the true just well, I ain't gonna get too graphic. I was about to say something that probably could have got this video demonetized, but there's some truly cheesy, just bottom of the earth, in between your toes junk that's just 2000s. It got a little bit I don't know, it seemed like the video game industry got a little bit more polished after the 2000s, became a little bit more mainstream. And like nowadays, if there is a game that is like bad quality, it still has a decent budget behind it, so it's not as like god awful as some of the games before it. But let's jump and see what it has to offer. This video is brought to us by watchmojo. Sometimes watchmojo for me is hit and miss, but they usually make some interesting top 10 list videos. Also, there's like this side scrolling bar at the bottom of the screen. I don't really know how to remove it, so just be mindful of that. And it's probably going to just be there. I'll have to look into it later to figure out how to get rid of it, but yeah, try not to let it distract you too much. Anyway, let's jump into this and see what it has to offer.
Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, come on. We crushed that last job. Were they even watching?
Welcome to watchmojo, and today we're going through the past quarter century and looking at the worst games that came out between the years 2000 and 2024.
Oh yeah.
Who's ready to wallow in some filth?
Big Rig Racing. Yeah, that's a bad game.
Spy. Hide.
2000, Mortal Kombat Special Forces.
Yeah. Around this time, I was really huge into Mortal Kombat, and I want to say like a couple years before this, because this was around the time Mortal Kombat started experimenting with their franchise. A couple years before this, they released a game called Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, and even though some people consider that game to be bad, I actually liked it. I enjoyed that game quite a bit. And Special Forces was the second spin-off game that they created outside the franchise, and yeah, it was bad. It was very bad. But to be fair, they made up for it a couple years later with Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, which is to me still one of the best co-op games you can possibly play.
Midway was really struggling in getting Mortal Kombat to transition into the early years of 3D gaming. Some may point to Mythologies as the worst game in the franchise, but there's a strong case to be made for Special Forces.
Anybody that has Mythology Sub-Zero worse off than Special Forces is beyond tripping. Only way you would say that is if you never played Special Forces. Like that's the only way you could say that. Special Forces is objectively worse.
Starring Jax and his burly cybernetic muscles sounds awesome until you start littering the game with the same 2 corridors and rooms as the previous 2. It winds up making the game feel insanely repetitive, especially when all we're doing is just going room to room to beat up baddies. That's your loop? Really?
Why does he fall every time he...
The Simpsons Wrestling.
Heavenly powers compelled in the alley.
I never played this game, but I remember seeing it in gaming magazines, and it didn't look good just from the pictures and stuff. Plus, around this time, the SmackDown series had a pretty strong grip on me. And for those of you that were really into like wrestling and stuff, y'all were probably still like big into the Nintendo 64 games like WCW, NWO, what was that game? Revenge. And then you had the No Mercy, of course.
Season 1, The Simpsons Wrestling.
Heavenly powers compelled in the alley.
Yeah, this game looks horrible. Oh, sorry, you guys. There was an issue with the recording, but I was able to fix it this time. Jump right back into it.
Powers compelled in the alley.
Now, you want to talk about one of the worst games to come out on the first PlayStation console? Here's your big ticket item. The Simpsons Wrestling is an absolute mess from head to toe with its annoying audio, horrendous visuals, and unbelievable busted gameplay. Regardless if it's you or the AI, be prepared to hear the same couple of sound effects and dialogue in quick succession.
Simpsons have always been hit and miss when it comes to their games. Like back in the early 90s, they had the arcade game. Great. Amazing. I love the arcade game. To this day, still one of my favorite games of all time. And then they had a series of just bad games. I think this was one of them. Was there another PlayStation Simpsons game that came out? I want to say there was, but I kind of forgot. I think in the PlayStation 2, they had a lot more hits than misses, like Hit and Run, and there was a racing one. What was it? Ah, fuck, I forgot what it was. But there was a racing. Was it Roadkill or something? I think it was like a Crazy Taxi clone. But both games are great. Hit and Run is still considered like, and like, no, I won't say all time great, but it's considered like a really good PlayStation 2 game. And since then, I don't think they really did too much with Simpsons. They had like a mobile app game, I think, and that was kind of it.
Also, pray to God that you don't ever have to fight Ned Flanders, as he is the one character that breaks the entire game. You would think that title would go to Mr. Burns.
I mean,
and
he has
Smithers
God
as you
on his
fight
side.
them both on a 2v1 match, but when you got Mr.
Kind of
Doobie-Doo here
cheating.
calling God to strike you down repeatedly, controllers will get thrown.
It's like a perpetual double team.
Hidey ho! Hidey ho!
2002, Sneakers.
I never even heard of this game.
Between the big three, Xbox has never really had that strong of a lineup when it comes to exclusives. Case in point, Sneakers, an action puzzler published by Xbox Game Studios themselves when they were known as Microsoft Game Studios. Sneakers tasked players with leading a group of mice through a series of rooms to fight other mice hiding in various spots. And that's all there is to this game. Wander around, fight mice, head to a slightly bigger area, fight more mice, Rinse and repeat until you fall asleep.
So it's like a
Or
Stuart
hope the
Little
tediousness causes the disc to
beat 'em up.
crash. Considering this was a game you could only buy from a Toys R Us store, you would hope the toy store chain would have known this was not worth the investment before the game was out.
During the festival.
2003, Big Rigs Over the Road Racing.
Probably the worst game of all time. Now, I did see somebody play this game recently, and I think they like updated it somehow. And because in the original game, it's you and there's another truck that you're racing against, but the AI is broken, so the truck doesn't move. So it's like you're racing, but the other truck isn't going any damn where. I think they upgraded it so that the other truck does like move, but it's still not hard to beat it. Plus, I think the reverse infinite speed glitch is still in the game. So like if you just like turn around and drive backwards, you'll like build up speed permanently and just like keep getting faster and faster until you're literally like breaking the damn sound barrier.
In the wonderful world of racing games, you will never find a more wretched hive of bugs and glitches as Big Rigs Over the Road Racing. Look, we won't judge anyone for shopping at their preferred retail store, but being a Walmart exclusive game is already setting off some alarms in our heads. Big Rigs lacks any semblance of vehicle physics, collision detection, not even proper level design, as you can drive over any and all terrain regardless of whether it makes logical sense.
Yeah.
This would only be one of the earliest signs of Game Mill Entertainment's abysmal efforts in becoming a notable game publisher. (2004) The Guy Game.
Yeah. I remember when this game came out, I mean, I know people weren't using terms like gooners and stuff like that back then, but this was 100% a straight up gooner game. If you bought this game, it's like, at this point, there was the internet, you know what I mean? Like, there were ways that you could like get your fix of this type of content, if you know what I mean, without having to spend money on a game. And like, would you really want this in your library? I think that there was an issue with this game too, because I believe that one of the people that appeared in it was like, turned out to be underage, so they had to like get rid of it. This was a black eye for us gamers.
Given the hot water the Guy Game found itself in after launch, it's impossible for any other game that came out in 2004 to top this one. For those unaware, the Guy Game was a simple trivia game where players had to answer questions from various categories. The better they perform, the more uncensored the game gets, as hotties expose themselves to the camera for getting questions wrong. It could have been deemed as just a weird game for anyone to own until one of the contestants filed a lawsuit against developer Top Heavy Studios towards the end of 2004. Turns out, the contestant was not of age when she participated in the game's recording. The Texas justice system ruled in favor of the contestant and ordered Top Heavy to cease all distribution of the Guy Game. Top Heavy's response on their website was, "The man has decided that our fun and hilarious presentation of Spring Break Revelry just wasn't appropriate for the world of gaming." Top Heavy would eventually close its doors in 2005.
Just a year later.
2005, Ninja Bread Man. Moving on to slightly less manure-filled pastures, Ninja Bread Man was just one of many shovelware titles flooding the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo.
I remember hearing
throughout
about
the
this game, but I
2000s.
never actually
While a
like
violent gingerbread man sounds like
played
it'd
it.
make for an awesome video game, the idea is quickly deflated once you realize the game is only 3 levels long, not including the
Really?
tutorial. Its reputation only worsened as developer Data Design Interactive would take the game's levels and reskin them for a handful of other games. So, if you ever played Rock and Roll Adventures, Trixie in Toyland, or Anubis 2, you've experienced the same clunky combat and unreliable controls as Ninja Bread Man.
I never played any of them, so I guess I'm lucky.
2006, Sonic the Hedgehog.
I may not
Yeah.
know what Eggman's up to, but it can't be a good thing.
Okay.
This is what happens when you take a cartoon animal mascot character and try to add realism to it. Like the movement and everything was like, they tried to make it really like smooth and lifelike, but then it was like glitching and stuff at the same time, and it was just all around bad.
With your help, this should be a piece of cake.
I'll do my best.
While revisionists today like to pretend that Sonic 06 was actually good, no, it wasn't actually good, and it never has been under any lens. For some reason, Sega joined the handful of other publishers that were trying to make their cartoony mascots gritty in embarrassing ways. But what made Sonic 06 stand out from Bomberman Act Zero were three things. First, the broken physics which often made Sonic uncontrollable and defied any and all logic in physics. Second, the lack of unique visuals and environments resulting in a generic-looking game. And lastly, shall we all remember that infamous kiss scene?
Yeah.
I think I speak for all of us when we say we'd rather not.
Nice smile.
2007, Boogie.
No, you will shut the hell up. If I have to.
Developers,
No.
if you ever have your heart set on
C is
making a
supposed
music
to
game for
mute
your
it.
next product, it's absolutely critical that you make your controls and input latency
Well, I
as
think M
accurate
mutes
and
it.
responsive as possible. EA Montreal seemed to have forgotten that little tidbit, as Boogie was
I
as
pushed the wrong
hard
damn
or
button.
easy as you wanted to make
That
it. The microphone
caption.
peripheral barely worked half of the time, while
got
the
the
motion
button now,
controls
though.
for dancing were so loose that you could just flail
Gotta
the hell
copyright
out of it
claim my
and
stuff
still
now.
pass every song. That said, good luck getting through your favorite songs if you're wanting to sing and dance to them.
Yeah, that's right. See, I got your ass that time. You thought you were gonna get me. Not this time.
2008, Facebreaker.
It looks okay.
For a time, Electronic Arts was making a solid push for sports games aimed towards casual players with their EA Sports Freestyle label. The first of these games was
I thought it was the EA Sports Big. Maybe they went to freestyle once, like PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 came around. But I'm from the era when it was EA Sports Big, where they had games like NBA Street, NFL Street. I think there was a soccer one in there, and it was fun. You get some friends like sitting around and y'all play like one of those games together, and it was a fun time. Now, if they'll ever do anything like that again, who knows? Because once the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 came out, they tried to like bring those franchises over. I remember there being an NBA Street game on PlayStation 3 or whatever. It didn't turn out good. Same thing with Def Jam. Like they had Def Jam Vendetta, Def Jam Fight for New York. Both those games were absolute amazing. Then they had like Def Jam something on Xbox 360, and that stuff was trash. It's amazing just how quickly those franchises took a nosedive the second HD came into the picture.
Facebreaker, and it
I
was
think
not
they
only the
focused
first
too much
under
on
this label,
graphics. I think
it was
that was
among
the
the
problem.
worst games EA ever published. We can respect the presentation and character designs here, but when the AI is so unforgiving with its input reading and borderline touch of death combos, Facebreaker becomes utterly rage-inducing and annoying. It doesn't help that some characters have game-breaking moves like hypnosis or firing missiles.
Hey, look, he counted them.
2009, Rogue Warrior.
I'm curious, what year did the Bad Boys game come out? The game that was essentially like it was a video game version of the Will Smith, Martin Lawrence Bad Boys franchise. but they couldn't like afford to get Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, so they had like these generic looking characters that you could tell they hired actors to try to sound like them, and it didn't really work. I'm pretty sure that came out in 2000s. That was bad.
An action game starring Mickey Rourke sounds like it could make for a highly entertaining experience. Plus, we don't see many games set in the Cold War era. The thing is that Rogue Warrior was too painful to play even after Bethesda brought Rebellion developments in to try and save the game. Alas, it was too late. Rogue Warrior was plagued by an absolutely abysmal story, boring combat encounters that amounted to abysmal shooting galleries,
it didn't like he was smoking a cigar.
A short campaign that would only take you a little over an hour to finish. The only thing that came out of this game that was kind of neat was the famous rap that Mickey Rourke performs during the credits. At least that turned out to be so bad that it was good.
You ain't gonna play a little bit of that rap?
2010, Final Fantasy XIV.
The original. I know a lot of people talk about Final Fantasy XIV and how bad it was until they re-released it as Realm Reborn. But would you really say it was the worst game released that year? I'm not really too familiar with all the games that came out in 2010, but I don't know. To say it's the worst game released that year, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, there's a reason why they re-released it, so it had to have been like very bad, but I don't know. I just find it weird to say a Final Fantasy game is the worst game released all year.
Most folks forget that A Realm Reborn was not the first iteration of Final Fantasy XIV, hence the name. No, the original version was a completely different game in the worst ways possible. While many loved the world of Eorzea, the user interface was abysmal in how menu-riddled it was, not to mention the general confusing layout. Plus, the game constantly suffered from performance issues no matter which way you went. Frame drops, stuttering, and glitches aplenty. With it having been so long since we started with A Realm Reborn, it's almost hard to comprehend that this rendition actually existed at one point.
Yeah, those frame rates ain't doing it any favors.
2011, Flatout 3, Chaos and Destruction. The Flatout series has enjoyed a quiet life, earning its own slice of the niche vehicular combat genre in gaming. However, things were looking rather bleak when this third entry in the franchise exploded onto the scene, and crashed and burned in the most miserable way possible. From the general performance issues to the obscene amount of bugs and glitches, it's hard to tell what exactly happened here. Was the game rushed out the door? Or
was the
this
Flatout
just a bad
series
circumstance of awful programming?
Those games where you like
Flatout 3 was simply unsavable.
Drive into traffic and you get like they like calculate how much damage you did.
Thankfully turned out better than we had
or is
dreaded,
that Burnout?
But even so, it wasn't as great as Flatout 2. – 2012, Infestation Survivor Stories, aka The War Z. Remember the era of Steam Greenlight and the amount of drivel that spewed from the program? Well, Infestation Survivor Stories was among those. The game was originally listed as The War Z until producer Sergei Titov received the notice from the United States Patent and Trademark Office to rename the game to avoid violating Paramount Pictures' trademark of World War Z. But this would be the least of Titov's worries, because after seeing some fairly positive reception, Titov went on a spree of awful behavior using homophobic slurs, dismissing any criticism thrown at the game and advertising features that weren't even present. Things got so bad that Valve began investigating the game, Titov, and its development studio, OP Productions, as hackers began trying to get the game taken down. I mean, hey, what else?
I thought it was the entire like development company that was like using homophobic slurs and stuff. I'm like, really? Damn, that the whole company? But yeah, like that's pretty bad. Ain't no coming back from that.
as hackers began trying to get the game taken down. I mean, hey, what else would you expect from one of the key developers behind big rigs over-the-road racing?
Yeah, you shouldn't have even been able to create this damn game.
2013, Ride to Hell Retribution.
This game came out that late?
We don't see many games centered on motorcycles or biker gangs unless they're being portrayed as thugs, in-game enemies to throw at the player. Ride to Hell Retribution could have been a gateway for folks interested in biker culture until folks got their hands on it.
Yeah, I thought it came out a lot sooner than 2013.
It wasn't enough for developer Technics to implement lazy shortcuts in animations and reused assets. Nope, there were also women who were set as prizes and rewards for the player with steamy cutscenes between missions. This wasn't just a complete train wreck of a game. It was kind of a complete exploitation and objectification of women in the most offensive, tasteless, and
He went
insensitive way
flying
possible.
after that shot. That was crazy.
It's fun, Jake. I had.
2014, Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric.
He's an evil, ruthless, dangerous, pitiless, remorseless monster.
That's actually a shame
Goodness, he's locked up for all
because the
time.
cartoon is actually funny.
Funny story. You might have accidentally unleashed him on the world.
Look, Sonic may be seeing better days in the modern era, but man, the Blue Blur was on a really bad run for a long, long time. Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric was practically the death knell for Sega's longtime mascot, as the publisher bet big on this reboot only to flop and dry out like a cod in the desert. Rise of Lyric was infested with bugs, glitches, and performance issues around every freaking corner. Cutscenes show characters
Yeah, a
T-posing
lot
a
of
few frames,
cutscenes.
frame drops happen
Or
at random
cutscenes.
parts of the game.
A lot of
Knuckles
glitches.
can jump forever just by frequently hitting pause and can potentially skip a substantial part of the game. What hurts more is that quality assurance staff had to come out as the public dogpiled on them to say they warned both Big Red Button and Sega about the game's poor state. Clearly they were ignored.
Chuck another one up for Team Sonic.
2015, Alone in the Dark: Illumination. Alone in the Dark just can't seem to catch a break anymore. Not like it did in the good old days anyway. Even after
Yeah,
the
they
awful
had,
2008 reboot and the mediocre 2024 reboot, Illumination
Well, I
remains
can't say
the
they had a
worst
great
title in the
past.
franchise's history. Just everything
They're
about
one of the
this
first
game
survival
reeks of sheer
horror
laziness and quality between the
franchises.
stiff character animation, constantly recycled environments, and over-reliance on
Kinda
random
laid the
generation
foundation
for its
for
level design. Perhaps
Resident
Alone in
Evil.
the Dark would have had a future as an online co-op multiplayer game had there been more time and care put into crafting a morbidly imaginative world rather than trying to shortcut its way to success. (2016) Umbrella Corps.
Is this a Resident Evil game? Capcom, it gotta be.
Speaking of games focused on online multiplayer, does anyone remember the dumpster fire that was Umbrella Corps? Yes, this was a PvP Resident Evil spin-off where Capcom desperately wanted to break into the esports scene, even though nothing about Resident Evil ever screamed competitive play. I mean, isn't that more Street Fighter's thing? The thing about Umbrella Corps is that it was so chaotic that no one can tell what in the hell was happening. You want a typical team deathmatch, but you also want zombies and biomutants running around attacking everyone and everything? What about that seems entertaining enough to catch the esports crowd? Thankfully, Capcom ditched this before they got too deep into potential post-launch support. (2017) 1-2 Switch.
Sneaky dice. Signal flags.
I mean, this game was
Switch's
essentially
launch
a
year was absolutely
demo.
stellar with titles like
I think
Mario
I remember
Kart 8
seeing this.
Deluxe and Breath of the Wild. But 1-2 Switch? 1-2 Switch? Who in their right mind saw this game and thought, yes, I need this? This was a $50 package of cheaply designed minigames made to demonstrate the tech integrated into the Joy-Con controllers. Had this been a part of the Switch at launch, perhaps we wouldn't be talking about this game and instead be dunking on, say, Star Wars Battlefront 2. But when you want us to pay $50 to compete with our friends,
only thing
in
bad
cow
about Star Wars
milking and
Battlefront 2
pretend
at the
eating,
time were the loot
let's
boxes.
be real here.
The game itself was actually pretty good.
2018, Super Seducer, How to Talk to Girls.
Excuse me, can I tell you something really quickly?
I remember seeing people do playthroughs
I just
of
saw
this.
you and wanted to let you know that you look really elegant. I love this skirt as well, it's really summery.
Thank you.
In 2018, we named Super Seducer the worst game of the year, and we're putting another glaring light of scrutiny on it now. Unrealistic in presentation, creepy in execution,
Yeah,
Super
kind of,
Seducer
yeah.
claims to help players talk to women and get dates, all while depicting women as easy to manipulate and ultimately gamifying what should be the romantic part of life. Somehow, self-proclaimed pickup artist Richard LaRuina still managed to get 2 sequels out of this endeavor before leaving the gaming industry and YouTube.
This is undoubtedly
I don't get like the idea of these people that make books and videos and stuff on like how to pick up girls and this, that, and the other. Like, if girls were so monolithic, where they were all just the exact same damn thing, that were like had the exact same damn interests, wouldn't that mean that like the only people getting like girls would all be like the same person using the same tricks? Like, maybe I'm sure some dudes out there that maybe were successful, I guess, but I doubt that people were using this game as a guide.
a cool thing about her, so you definitely need to connect on it and compliment it.
2019, WWE 2K20.
This is, I don't know why, but when I saw this right here, this reminded me of the the joke from Martin where he was talking about where Cole got injured by his girlfriend Big Shirley, and Martin was like, I didn't know that she was going to go up in the air, pause, and fall down on his whole left side.
2019, WWE 2K20.
And even Bailey herself would point to it as the driving force behind her success in WWE.
At the time WWE 2K20 came out, it was almost a tradition for watchmojo to put a WWE game on the worst games of the year list. Trust us, there are a ton of bad ones. Unbeknownst to us, this would be the last goldmine of surreal technical problems we would see from the franchise. From jiggly rope physics to bugged character models, WWE 2K20 became the laughingstock of the internet for a solid month or two in 2019 as more and more clips went viral.
Yeah,
the reception
was
was so poor that 2K had to come out and announce that the franchise would be skipping a year so that the publisher and developer Visual Concepts could figure out how to move forward with the franchise. Imagine our surprise when WWE 2K21 came out as amazing as it did. And so ends an era of dunking on this series once a year.
It should have never got that bad to begin with.
2020, Warcraft 3 Reforged.
For my people.
That's a shame. I love me a good
Everyone draws
RTS.
their own starting point from when Blizzard Entertainment truly burned all of its goodwill.
Back in the days with
For
Empire
most,
Earth,
that point was Warcraft
Rise
3
of
Reforged.
Nations,
What was supposed to
Age
be a
of
remake
Empires.
honoring the 2002 RTS turned out to be a lazy remaster lacking in
I love me a
features that
good
were promised during
historical
marketing.
RTS.
Where were all of the shiny new cutscenes? Angering fans even more was the hostile end-user license agreement, which stated that any mods made under Reforged would be immediately under Blizzard's ownership. The fans were pissed, and that's just putting it super lightly. Listen, when your game gets review bombed so hard that it becomes the lowest user-rated game on Metacritic, you know you've royally screwed things up. (2021) Balan Wonderworld.
I think I saw the Game Grumps play a little bit of this.
A brand new 3D platformer from famed developer Yuji Naka, the co-creator of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Could be wrong.
Sounds like enough of a reason to get excited, especially with the unique theme of musical theater tied to it. Ultimately, Naka's attachment meant nothing to the game's quality, as Balan Wonderworld would go so far as to taint it. Not including the touchpad, D-pad, and analog sticks, controllers have 8 usable buttons, 4 face buttons, 2 shoulder buttons, and 2 triggers. So why does this game dedicate every single one of them to a single ability? It amounts to piss poor design and a severe lack in implementing creative gimmicks to help the game truly shine. But sure, let's focus on the feel-good attitude over everything else. No one will mind the de-rendering objects and awkward reuse of the same mocap dances.
Excuse me?
2022, Babylon's Fall.
That's how it feels when that little tag on your shirt keeps scratching the back
Prior
of
to
your neck.
2022, Platinum Games had been in a slump with several games having flopped about as hard as most of the entries on this list. And yes, we mean critically and commercially. Surely a partnership with Square Enix might revive faith in the studio in some way, right? Well, not with Babylon's Fall. But come on guys, did anyone truly expect a live service game with copy-pasted corridors and a gameplay loop that made no sense to
Get
really
off that
take
shit,
off?
Kratos.
Not in your life, sport. Babylon's Fall didn't even live for more than half a year before Square Enix pulled the cord. And to think there were people dumpster diving for discarded GameStop copies just for a temporary free game.
Now, how the hell did you work out how to do that on your own?
2023, The Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Let's get this over with.
I watched Djibouti Dubs play this.
The Lord of the Rings Gollum was the worst game we had seen in 2023. And we saw some massive stinkers in the tail end of the year with Skull Island Rise of Kong and The Walking Dead Destinies. But Gollum was such an enigma in how long it spent in development and the public perception that no one was really wanting a game starring Gollum and Smeagol. Everyone thought
I think
the game
Rise
would
of
turn
Kong
out
was
unremarkable
worse.
at most. What we witnessed was a technical train wreck of game-breaking
this one
bugs that
had
could be easily
a
replicated,
build to it that
areas where you could see skyboxes and dev
made
assets,
the disappointment
and
that much
frequent
more.
crashes caused by Gollum's hair physics, which were removed from the game prior to launch. This all resulted in the development side of Data Lake Entertainment being closed entirely. The company is now focusing only on publishing games.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
2024, Concord.
Prepare to be disappointed.
Wow. When isolated to the game itself and only what the game delivered,
What year did the Saints Row
isn't
reboot
terrible.
come out?
Just mundane, lifeless, and erratic in character design and art direction. However, the reason it was 2024's worst game is because of the impact. Absolutely no one wanted this game. And reception was so bad that Sony pulled the game from sale less than 2 weeks after launch, with servers being shuttered not long after. Digital customers were refunded their $40, while physical buyers were now stuck with plastic containing now useless, inaccessible code. And as if things couldn't get any worse for Sony, word got out by Colin Moriarty, founder of podcast network Last Stand Media, that Concord had cost Sony nearly $500 million between the game's development and the acquisition of developer Firewalk Studios. Today, Concord only exists as a random episode of the Amazon series Secret Level. As for Firewalk Studios, the company was closed by Sony in October 2024, a little more than a month after the game's removal from storefronts.
It's on.
Oh, that sucks.
Did you suffer through any of these games yourself? Let us know down in the comments.
How's about after I win the qualifier, I work with you two?
Perhaps.
Not a lot of
You'll
these
have to win
games
first.
I've played.
Off you pop.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from watchmojo and be sure to
Artist
subscribe
unlockable
and
secret
ring the bell
characters
to
in
be
video
notified
games.
about our latest videos.
See, that seems like it'd be an interesting video. I might do a reaction to this one at some point. I love me a good unlockable secret. I think that's what's missing from video games today. Being able to just like have a game, turn it on, and not have everything available from like for you from the beginning. and not having the ability to just be able to buy it. Like, I missed when you had to like complete an objective in order to like get something. It felt rewarding. Now, like I said, a lot of these games I didn't experience myself. I played a little bit of Mortal Kombat, Special Forces. I've seen Big Rigs, but I never actually played it. Yeah, a lot of these games I didn't personally play. I think I played a little bit of a demo for Sonic the Hedgehog, maybe. I mean, I've played Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn, but I didn't play the first iteration of the game. Yeah, I was lucky. I was someone I was lucky enough to never play any of these games. Now, if you're somebody that actually played one of these games, please go into the comment section down below and let me know, because I would love to hear your testimony as far as that game is concerned. And if you have like played a game that you think is actually worse than anything listed for any of these entries for their specific years, then be sure to let me know about those too. Personally, the worst game I've ever played in my entire life, I have to stop and really think about it. I mean, there's Shaolin Monks, I guess. Not Shaolin Monks, I'm tripping. Special Forces, I guess. You can chalk that up, maybe. But honestly, if I could think of like the worst game I've ever played, it's probably some type of obscure late 90s, early 2000s computer game that doesn't exist anymore today, that came bundled with a bunch of other games that were very generic and plain. I remember there was this Pokemon clone game that I played on PC, and it had like very generic creatures and stuff, and this was way back in like the late 90s, and it was it was pretty bad. I don't even know the name of it, but I remember the look kind of, but I can't even describe like what type of game it was or how it played or anything like that. I just remember like early in the game, I remember going into like a forest level, and the fighting didn't look like the traditional Pokemon games where you had like one sprite looking from behind and the other sprite facing you. It was like, I think it had more of like a Dragon Quest type of battle camera to it, where like you can't see your character, but you're like, or could you see your character? I think it might have been just like your character on one side of the screen and the opponent on the other, and y'all just like, there's like facing them, and you just like whatever button, whatever attacks you do, it just like kind of showed a generic ass animation or something. But yeah, that was a long time ago. I haven't thought about that game in a long time. I actually enjoyed it somewhat. I was really huge into Pokemon, so I wouldn't even say that was the worst game I ever played, but it would be a game like that. One of those PC games that is obscure and you just haven't heard of in such a long time. But let me know what you guys think about the worst games that you ever played, and I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Until then, I'm Devon DaVinci, and I will see you guys in the next video. Deuces.